Hello, my name is Alicia Rodriguez. I am part of the prevention team at the care office. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I am a third year psychology major. Today, we will be presenting about the mental health effects that can happen to sexual domestic violence survivors, as well as how we can break the stigma. We would also like to let any viewers know that there will be tough topics being spoken about or examples used in this presentation that are difficult to hear about. So if you find yourself needing to take a brief pause from the video, please do. Your mental health is important to us as well. Before we get into the mental health outcomes of sexual domestic violence, we want to go over the difference between both forms of violence. Sexual violence means that someone forces or manipulates someone else into unwanted sexual activity without their consent. Reasons someone might not consent include fear, age, illness, disability, and/or influence of alcohol or other drugs. Anyone can experience sexual violence, including children, teens, adults, and elders. Those who sexually abuse can be acquaintances, family members, trusted individuals, or strangers. Domestic violence, also called intimate partner violence, domestic abuse, or relationship abuse, is a pattern of behaviors used by one partner to maintain power and control over another partner in an intimate relationship. The diagrams presented here are the different forms of sexual domestic violence that a person might go through at home, at work, or in another outdoor-indoor setting. Each one of these forms of abuse can cause a mental health effect that affects a person's daily life. In the next few slides, we will be giving different mental health outcomes as well as examples, and towards the end, we will go into how a person can help a survivor get through these outcomes. One of the mental health outcomes that a survivor might go through is PTSD, which stands for Post Traumatic Stress Disorder. This is a mental health condition that is triggered by a terrifying event. The common symptoms he or she can have is flashbacks, nightmares, severe anxiety, and uncontrollable thoughts about the event. An example of this is Tyler Down from the Netflix series 13 Reasons Why. Towards the ending of the second season, the Liberty High jocks decide to sexually assault Tyler in the boys' bathroom with an object and rape him with it, leaving him on the ground injured. This leads him to almost cause chaos in the spring formal that is happening in the school that same night, and cause harm to all those who ever made fun of him. He is stopped by a classmate of his, but throughout season 3, Tyler is triggered every time when he sees the jocks that harmed him, gets flashbacks when he sees the color red, and has anxiety problems that cause him to not want to be touched or hugged by anyone. This is one way that a person suffering from PTSD might look like, but not all the time. Another common mental health outcome is anxiety. Anxiety is a mental health disorder characterized by feelings of worry, anxiety, or fear that are strong enough to interfere with one's daily activities. A couple of outcomes from being in a domestic violent relationship is living with anxiety, feeling nervous, restless, tense, having sense of impending danger, panic, and trouble concentrating or thinking about anything other than the present worry. An example of this is Lisa Brox from the movie Medea's Family Reunion. She is engaged to an abusive man that her mother introduced to her. Her fiance, Carlos Armstrong, hits her when she does not do as he says, threatens to kill her if she thinks of leaving him, creating this fear where she feels paralyzed into staying with him, fearing for her own life.
Hi everyone, I'm Sharon and I'm going to be taking over for the second part of this presentation. I do want to go ahead and give a quick warning that I will be mentioning suicide very briefly. If you're not really comfortable with this be a great time to click away. So, some survivors might have feelings of sorrow, just despair and unhappiness. Some survivors might experience depression. Depression is a mental health condition marked by the diminished pleasure and interest in almost all activities for a significant period of time. Survivors are twice as likely to experience a depressive episode. This is per a study done in 2019 by Bailey. Individuals might develop suicidal ideation or tendencies. An unfortunate example of this is Audrey Pott from the documentary Audrey and Daisy. Next, we have the feelings of guilt. Guilt is a usually combined feeling of shame, anxiety, frustration, and sadness. Individuals can display guilt differently. It can cause physical and psychological effects such as insomnia, loss of appetite, and overall bad feeling. Survivors might feel that they are responsible for the event or the aftermath, such as the actions taken towards the assailant. An example of this is Gloria Mendez from Orange is the New Black. She discloses to her sister that her boyfriend's physically abusive, and her sister starts acting a bit hostile towards Gloria's boyfriend, and Gloria feels that she has somehow tainted his reputation. She has changed the way other people have perceived him, and she decides that she will no longer disclose to people because she doesn't want to ruin his reputation. We have to remind ourselves that guilt is a conditioned emotion. People are conditioned to feel guilty. So it's important to remind ourselves and to remind survivors that we are only responsible for our own actions and we are not responsible for the actions of anyone else. And I believe that our next slide is on numbness. So, numbness, individuals might feel or show very to little no emotion. It could be a lack of visible external response or lack of internal response. Individuals might not show feelings of sadness, anger, frustration, anxiety, etc. Does not mean that individuals were not impacted by the event. Everyone responds differently. An example is Tiffany Duggett from Orange is the New Black. She is sexually assaulted by a corrections officer and she doesn't show any emotions right away. She says she doesn't feel any emotions initially. She does later on start to show feelings of sadness and frustration. And this is an okay response. Everyone responds to trauma very differently, and it is all okay. Once again, how people respond to trauma is always going to change based on the event, based on themselves. So what can you do if a survivor comes to you? So listen carefully, be understanding, remain calm, believe the survivor, help them with only the things they ask for help, remind the survivor that it is not their fault and that any feelings are valid, and maintain confidentiality. If you are a mandated reporter, please disclose this right away and offer to help them find confidential resources. Once again, the most important thing is just listen and believe the survivor. It goes a long way. So next we have contact. So we have our campus advocate, Lena, who you can call or text Monday through Friday from 5 to 8 a.m. Emergency 911 for all and any emergencies, and our social media, as well as the campus police number up there. Thank you so much.